Let's be honest, 2025 felt a little quiet on the next-gen graphics front. A lot of that happened because so many releases got pushed back. Today we're looking at the 20 most exciting games coming in 2026, and we'll break down whether this upcoming year is set to finally deliver the visual revolution we've been waiting for. What's up guys, it's Braz, and here we go. The creators of Hitman.io Interactive are preparing their version of James Bond, and they've been quick to reassure fans. Their 007 First Light isn't just a Hitman reskin in a tuxedo. To prove this, they even hired driving experts specifically to ensure that the dynamic car chases are just as compelling as the stealth mechanics. The game tells the origin story of a young agent who is still striving to earn his famous 00 status. Interestingly, they cast a new actor, Patrick Gibson, for the role instead of one from the film series, which gives the studio total freedom to build its own original trilogy. The scale of the missions is promised to be unprecedented for IO Interactive, with an insider rumor about a $300 collector's edition. But there's good news. Anyone who pre-orders the standard edition will get a free upgrade to the deluxe version with early access. This new approach, which focuses on creative stealth and fast-paced action, is meant to set it apart from previous titles like Hitman, as the team at IO Interactive wants to create an all-timer James Bond game that lives up to its legendary legacy, and they are not afraid to admit that the development of this game is a clear succession of their skill set and ambition. Next up is MUDANG 2 Hearts, a tactical action game from Korean EVR Studio. This title is inspired by classics like Splinter Cell, but brings something completely new to the genre. The story has you playing as two characters, a North Korean Special Forces soldier and a K-pop idol. It sounds wild, but this contrast is the foundation of the entire narrative. To achieve maximum realism, the developers used real Korean Special Forces members for motion capture, which is impressive in its own right. The game, already nicknamed Korean Sam Fisher, meets Blackpink by the gaming community, is set in a near future where the two Koreas have reunited, but peace is far from certain, and the world is more fragile than ever. The protagonist, Special Agent Ji Jong-tae, must solve a series of terrorist attacks allegedly planned by the mysterious organization called Bilmuban, and it is during his investigation that he stumbles upon a K-pop idol named Gavi, who turns out to be at the center of the entire conspiracy. The developers promise that the game will not have an overloaded UI and will do away with outdated gameplay mechanics. MUDANG 2 Hearts is officially scheduled for release in 2026 on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. I've put together some of the most interesting points about this release, since GTA 6 is a true cultural and economic event of an unprecedented scale, more than just a game. So here are the main takeaways about what we have so far. In terms of development, it's been nearly 13 years, with a budget of around $2 billion, which is also intended for the long-term online service. This is more than any Hollywood blockbuster in history. Several thousand employees have been involved worldwide. There's information that, at its peak, this number reached 6,000 people. For comparison, Red Dead Redemption 2 had about 2,000 employees. As for the game itself, we'll get the largest and most diverse map ever created by Rockstar in the fictional state of Leonida, a parody of Florida with its main city of Vice City, which copies Miami. While previous GTA games parodied a specific era, like Vice City in the 80s, GTA 6 is clearly focused on satirizing contemporary culture in real time, with direct references to social media influencers and memes. The main protagonists are a duo inspired by the criminal romance of Bonnie and Clyde. Lucia is the first non-optional female protagonist in the series, while Jason is a former army veteran. Now let's talk about the rumors that you don't have to believe. Leaks hint at a new aging mechanic for the characters, which would be a core part of the gameplay, expanding on RDR2's realism. Many people point to a controversial $100 price tag and a multi-tiered model with early access to GTA Online. This could become a new standard for AAA games. An interesting point is that after the release of GTA 5, an IGN survey showed that almost half of the 11,000 people surveyed took a day off, with 2,100 people pretending to be sick. The new installment is expected to cause a similar phenomenon, dubbed GTA Flu. The official release date for GTA 6 is May 26, 2026 for PS5 and Xbox Series, but insiders continue to have doubts, suggesting a postponement to September, so we will await further news. If you want to stay up to date with the latest gaming releases, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell. And with that, we're moving on to number 17. Capcom is taking the Resident Evil franchise back to its roots in a move that seems to directly address fan feedback. The game was initially conceived as an online-only title, but developers pivoted to a single-player, narrative-driven experience after realizing that's not what players wanted. This is a conscious decision to return to the survival horror genre, set in the devastated Raccoon City about 30 years after the original outbreak. The new protagonist, FBI agent Grace Ashcroft, is a key point of interest. She's an introverted analyst and not a hardened combatant like Leon Kennedy. This changes the dynamics, forcing you to rely more on stealth and environmental manipulation to survive, though you will eventually get your hands on weapons. A playable demo at Gamescom 2025 offered the chance to switch between first and third-person perspectives on the fly, with the first-person view being an especially terrifying and claustrophobic experience. The monster that hunts you is described as smarter and more relentless than Mr. X or Lady Dimitrescu, and can now appear from the ceiling. This adds terror, but similar scare mechanics were already present in previous installments. The game is set for release on February 27, 2026, and in addition to the leading platforms, it will also be available on the Switch too. Chronicles Medieval. There's a massive new sandbox RPG on the horizon from Raw Power Games, a brand new studio staffed by over 100 industry veterans from titans like The Witcher 3, Red Dead Redemption 2, and the Assassin's Creed series. When they first showed the game off, the cinematic trailer was narrated by actor Tom Hardy himself, which immediately signaled a huge budget and high ambitions. But the most interesting story here is what happened with the studio's stance on generative AI. Back in 2022, the studio's CTO stated their 10-year goal was to rely so much on AI that they'd just be making tools that will generate the game for them. That statement stirred up a lot of controversy, and now, the company has completely changed course. In a recent statement, they officially confirmed the game is 100% handcrafted with no use of generative AI. The devs have also brought on a historical European martial arts expert to ensure the combat is authentic. The game will blend a top-down strategic map with third-person action in a way that's clearly trying to challenge the dominance of a certain beloved franchise. Many gamers who've been waiting for a true next-gen Mount and Blade should take a look at this project. Chronicles Medieval is expected to launch in early access on PC in 2026, with a full release on consoles. When you hear the name Amy Hennig, you probably think of the Uncharted trilogy. Now the legendary writer and director is back with her studio's new project, Marvel 1943: Rise of Hydra. Originally, the game was supposed to come out in 2025, but it was pushed back to early 2026. The truth is, that was probably a smart move, because we've seen almost no official gameplay. What we have seen is a bunch of very early unpolished footage from a 2022 to 2023 development build that was leaked online. It showed some very rough, movement-heavy combat with Black Panther, and it was quickly dismissed by some people who didn't understand that this footage was nearly 4 years old. You know how that goes. Hennig's vision for the game is to create what she calls a shared living room experience, similar to her work on Uncharted, where the game is as fun to watch as a movie as it is to play. The story is a globe-trotting adventure starring 4 playable characters: Captain America, Black Panther, a Howling Commando named Gabriel Jones, and a Wakandan spy named Nanali, with locations like occupied Paris and the jungles of Wakanda. It's a game that's betting on a linear cinematic experience in an era of massive open worlds, which is a bold choice for a new studio. For years, gamers have been hearing about Crimson Desert, and it's a title that has been delayed multiple times since it was first announced in 2020. It was originally aimed for a late 2025 release, but the studio recently announced another delay to March 19, 2026. But here's the kicker. Pearl Abyss was very upfront about the reason for this latest delay, stating that active development is actually complete, and the delay was a strategic decision to give them more time for logistics like localization and console certification. The move, as many have noted, strategically places the game ahead of the launch of GTA 6 in May 2026, giving it some much-needed breathing room and showing a clear understanding of the market. But the real kicker is what happened behind the scenes. According to reports, Pearl Abyss rejected a timed exclusivity deal from Sony. Sony apparently was so impressed with the game's potential that they even compared its atmosphere to Ghost of Tsushima. The studio chose instead to self-publish, which is a huge bet on themselves to reach a wider audience and keep a larger share of the profits, without being tied to a single platform. Gears of War is taking us back to where it all began. E-Day is a new prequel from the Coalition that takes us back 14 years before the original game to the day the Locust emerged. This isn't a remake, but a completely new story, starring younger versions of Marcus Fenix and Dom Santiago, with both original voice actors reprising their roles. The creative director has said that they're specifically trying to return to the series' horror roots, reframing the Locust as living nightmares seen through the eyes of people encountering them for the very first time. The Coalition is a flagship first-party studio for Xbox and the global leader in Unreal Engine development. E-Day is being built on UE5, an engine that has a reputation for major optimization problems and poor performance in other games. Because of this, the gaming community is watching this release very closely. The Coalition has been tasked with creating a game that feels both truly new and authentically Gears, and its success will largely be judged by whether they can deliver a technically sound experience that sets a new benchmark for what Unreal Engine 5 can do. Gears of War E-Day is coming to Xbox Series and PC, and will be included with Xbox Game Pass. The names James Olin and Drew Karpyshyn are legendary in the world of RPGs. Now this band of BioWare veterans has founded a new studio, Archetype Entertainment, and their first project is the sci-fi action RPG Exodus. Karpyshyn himself, the lead writer for the first two Mass Effect games, said that his passion for game development had been rekindled at the new studio. For many, this is a spiritual successor to classic BioWare RPGs from the people who defined the genre. But what really makes the game unique is its core mechanic. It's built around a time dilation system, a classic sci-fi trope where, due to relativistic space travel, only months pass for the player while decades or even centuries pass for everyone else. And this is a fundamental part of the gameplay. For example, a faction you helped on one mission could be extinct by the time you return from a longer one. This elevates player choices to a whole new level of consequence, making every decision feel weighty in a way that's very rare in modern RPGs. And yes, the game features a key character voiced by none other than Matthew McConaughey. When the first trailer for Phantom Blade Zero dropped, it immediately broke the internet. The game is a kung fu punk action RPG from Chinese studio S-Game, and it has a unique story behind its development. The director Soulframe Leong originally envisioned a much smaller game, but after that reaction, he made the call to increase the scale to a full AAA title. This is a studio that's now making a massive high-stakes bet on itself. The combat system, built on real Chinese martial arts and developed with help from martial arts instructors, is described as fast and fluid, and having drawn comparisons to Sekiro. But unlike a typical Souls-like, there is no stamina bar, and the game's combat is designed to be more aggressive and kinetic. This is a controversial choice for some purists, but it shows the studio is not afraid to break genre conventions. While the main story is only 30 to 40 hours, the developers claim that you will likely only see about 40% of the content on your first playthrough, which suggests a huge amount of optional missions and side content hidden in the game's semi-open world. Phantom Blade Zero is coming to PS5 and PC, and the specific release date was promised to be announced at the end of 2025. The original Fable was known for its whimsical charm, and the big challenge for the new studio is living up to that legacy. It's a highly anticipated reboot from Playground Games, a studio with a flawless track record of making stunning open-world racing games with the Forza Horizon series, but with no experience making an action RPG of this scale. The game was delayed from its initial 2025 launch window to sometime in 2026. The most heated conversations around Fable often happen online, with a vocal minority of players calling the game woke because of its female protagonist or the presence of non-white characters in a European fantasy setting. But here's the thing, this isn't a new direction for the Fable franchise at all. The very first game, released way back in 2004, included gay marriage and characters of color like Whisper, so those concerns are based on a fundamental misunderstanding of the series' history. The real underlying question is whether a studio known for building beautiful driving sandboxes can capture the unique, whimsical, and often satirical charm of the original Fable games, where your choices have strange, visible consequences. The game will be an Xbox console exclusive, available on PC, and included with Xbox Game Pass. 4 years of delays, radio silence, and internal struggles. Pragmata is a new sci-fi IP from Capcom, one of the few major new franchises from the publisher in over a decade, and it's a game with a long and troubled history. It was originally announced for a 2022 release but was repeatedly delayed until Capcom finally went silent on the project. Now it's officially set for 2026 with a self-aware post-it note in a recent trailer that literally says 2026, it's real. The game's director, Young-hee Cho, later admitted that the team went through difficult times and repeatedly asked themselves if the game they were making was actually fun. It's a project that is a testament to the developers' persistence in the face of immense creative doubt. On top of that, the game itself aims to break the rules of third-person shooters, and from what we've seen, it's doing so in a big way. Its core combat mechanic requires the protagonist, Hugh, to first hack enemies with his companion Diana, before he can do any real damage to them. Pragmata is coming to PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. When the former director of The Witcher 3 left his studio to start a new project, he promised complete creative freedom. The result is the Blood of Dawnwalker, a new dark fantasy action RPG from his studio Rebel Wolves. The core idea was to create a studio with a supportive environment and complete creative freedom. So for a lot of people, this isn't just a new game, it's a direct promise from the people who made The Witcher 3 great. A new narrative-driven RPG that gets back to what made that game so beloved. The setting itself is a vampire-ruled 14th century Europe, full of moral gray areas, a hallmark of Tomaszkiewicz's past work. The most unique gameplay hook is a time as a resource mechanic. You have just 30 into game days to complete a critical task to save your family. But here's the twist. Free exploration of the open world doesn't advance the clock at all. This means you have to strategically prioritize your major story decisions while still having the freedom to explore at your own pace. It's a thoughtful design that challenges the typical endless side quests open world formula while still letting you lose yourself in the world. From the creators of Until Dawn, a studio known for its choice-driven horror games, comes a new project that feels like a big departure. Directive 8020 is the fifth installment in the Dark Pictures anthology from Supermassive Games. It's set in deep space and is heavily inspired by classic films like The Thing and Aliens, with a shape-shifting alien threat that mimics its prey. To appeal to a wider audience, Supermassive has also made a controversial design choice with a new feature called Turning Points. This system allows players to literally rewind and change a major decision after it's been made. The creative director admitted this was added because players would often just quit when their favorite character died, and this feature gives them a second chance. The core identity of a Supermassive game has always been that your choices have permanent final consequences. Now with a rewind button, the big question is whether the game can still be as terrifying if death is no longer final. Directive 8020 has been officially delayed to the first half of 2026. For decades, the studio Game Freak has had a reputation for delivering technically unpolished games, relying solely on the strength of the Pokémon brand. Now they're taking a massive creative leap with their first major AAA title outside of that franchise, Beast of Reincarnation. The director Kota Furushima previously worked on the battle systems for various Pokémon titles, so this is his first major swing at a full-fledged action RPG. The game is set in a post-apocalyptic Japan and features a samurai protagonist and her loyal canine companion. The combat is described as technical, with a focus on fast, fluid movement and precise parries that have even drawn some comparisons to Sekiro. But in the early trailer footage, the game appeared to be running at a very low frame rate of around 15 frames per second. That visual roughness directly plays into the core narrative of the studio's technical struggles and is a major point of skepticism for the gaming community. For those not wanting to buy the game at full price, the good news is it will be a day one release on Xbox Game Pass. Lords of the Fallen 2 is a sequel to the 2023 reboot and is the latest entry in a franchise with a history of rocky development cycles. The original 2023 game changed developers 3 times before it was finally released. Now its creative leads have been let go just months before the sequel's reveal. Despite the messy history, the team delivered a game that was good enough to earn a sequel. But the story behind the sequel is even more dramatic. Just months before the game's official reveal, CI Games let go of the executive producer and the creative director of the first game. The creative director, Cesar Virtuoso, publicly commented that no kingdom lasts forever, confirming an acrimonious split. But the most fascinating part of this drama is the publisher's public stance. The CEO of CI Games, Marek Tymiński, has adopted a zero-woke policy and has publicly bragged about how he altered the character creator in the first game to be explicitly male and female, stating that he was making a game free of social and political agendas. This is a clear, politically motivated marketing move to appeal to a specific part of the audience. The action has been criticized as reverse rainbow capitalism by some analysts, an ironic attempt by the publisher to capitalize on a culture war. The galaxy-spanning war of EVE Online is coming to the ground. EVE Vanguard is a multiplayer sci-fi FPS from CCP Games, the developers behind the massive MMO EVE Online, and it's a shooter that is fully integrated into the EVE universe. The vision is for players on the ground to fight for their factions on planets, with their actions directly influencing the larger galactic war being fought by players in space in EVE Online. For veteran fans of the franchise, this idea feels very familiar. It's a second chance for CCP to fulfill a promise they failed to deliver with a past title, to create one universe, one war, fought across space and planets. The studio is using a strategy of open development, where they are constantly running free play sessions and actively taking feedback from players. From early community feedback, we know the game is still very rough around the edges. Players have commented that the movement and animations feel janky and the environments feel too clean, like they were just neatly stacked. The official announcement made at EVE FanFest indicates that the game is planned to launch in early access for PC in summer 2026. Housemarque made a name for itself with Returnal, a critical darling that was also known for its punishing roguelike loop. Now the acclaimed studio is back with a new PS5 exclusive called Saros, and they're calling it the Anti-Returnal. This is the studio's first big game since being acquired by Sony. And because it's a rare PS5 exclusive these days, expectations are sky high. While Returnal garnered high praise from critics, many players were put off by its punishing roguelike loop, where you lose everything upon death. Saros is a direct response to that feedback. The developers have stated that a key distinction is a move to permanent resources and progression, making every death valuable. The game is also taking a much more character-focused approach, with a haunting story about a lost off-world colony and a lead role played by actor Rahul Kohli from The Fall of the House of Usher. Thanks to Sony's acquisition, the studio has the budget and freedom to craft a much bigger, more emotional story. The game will be a real test of whether they can pull off that kind of ambitious AAA-level storytelling. Saros is set to launch on March 20th, 2026. The original Mortal Shell was a cult hit from a tiny team of just 13 people. Now with a sequel on the way, they're swinging for the fences. The new entry is a standalone successor to the 2020 Souls-like from Cold Symmetry, and it's a story of a small team taking a huge creative leap. The game is said to be a much bigger and more ambitious, featuring a compact open world with over 60 dungeons to explore. But the most significant change is in combat. The developers have removed the stamina bar entirely, which is a bold and controversial move for a Souls-like. While some fans loved the methodical, weighty combat of the first game, others found it clunky, and the developers are now betting that a faster, more aggressive, and more kinetic combat system will appeal to a wider audience. The sequel is also adding firearms, like shotguns and revolvers, which is another huge departure from the genre's norms. We also have to point out the monster and boss designs. They all look very creepy, brutal, yet simultaneously thrilling, especially with the Behemoth soundtrack that played in the trailer. Squadron 42 is the single-player component of the decade-in-the-making space epic Star Citizen. For years, the game has been a symbol of both massive ambition and endless delays, with a lot of people openly skeptical that it will ever be released. But according to its founder and CEO Chris Roberts, the game is finally on track for a 2026 release, and he is not shying away from making some truly incredible claims about it. In a recent interview with the French publication La Presse, Chris Roberts made the audacious statement that the release of Squadron 42 will be almost as massive an event as the launch of GTA 6, and also claimed that it is probably the most expensive AAA game, not counting GTA. Those are some of the most confident claims ever made about a video game that hasn't been released. It sets an impossibly high bar, putting the game directly in a conversation with one of the biggest entertainment products in history. The game is supposed to be a PC exclusive. However, recent job postings at Cloud Imperium Games indicate that they are looking for specialists with experience on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series, which may give hope to console owners, but for now, these are just rumors. Aphelion is a new sci-fi horror IP coming from a brand new studio named Starlight Echoes. This is a team of industry veterans who previously worked on the critically acclaimed Dead Space, and they've been given the freedom to build their own vision from the ground up. The developers have been very quiet about the details of Aphelion, but what we do know is that they're focusing on a unique core gameplay mechanic that they've been calling the gravitational manipulation system. In a genre that can often feel like a simple cover shooter, this system will allow players to use gravity to solve puzzles, navigate environments, and strategically disarm enemies by lifting them or throwing objects at them from a distance. The game is a story about loss and isolation, where the protagonist is the last survivor on a derelict space station, and the player must decide whether to escape or uncover the dark cosmic horror that took the rest of the crew. Aphelion is expected to launch on major platforms and will be available day one on Xbox Game Pass. The A Plague Tale franchise is returning with a new chapter, but not in the way you might expect. Resonance is the next installment in the beloved series, but it's not a direct sequel to the story of Amisha and Hugo. The title Legacy suggests that the game will take a different approach, following a new cast of characters in the same plague-ridden world generations later. The rumor is that the game will leave behind the supernatural elements that dominated the last two entries and focus on a much more grounded story of survival and human conflict. It's returning to the franchise's roots as a stealth and survival game. It aims to deliver a much more raw and gritty experience without the protagonist's special powers. This new chapter will still feature the same breathtaking visuals and environmental storytelling that the series is famous for, with a new protagonist who must navigate a world on the brink of collapse. The goal is to provide a new perspective on the beloved universe and explore the dark history of the plague, perhaps even revealing its true origins. Like its predecessor, this game will be available on Xbox Game Pass in 2026. The developer behind Marvel's Spider-Man is back with another PlayStation 5 exclusive, and this time, it's all about a far grittier hero. The gameplay trailer didn't hold back, promising a much darker and more brutal experience than their previous work, with Logan's adamantium claws in gruesome action. This isn't Peter Parker swinging through the city. This is a savage, visceral journey into the mind of a living weapon. The trailer gives us glimpses of chaotic sequences, from a motorbike chase to what looks like a showdown with a giant sentinel, while confirming key characters like the elusive Mystique and the formidable Omega Red. Logan's personal quest to uncover his dark past will take him across the globe, from the frosted wilderness of Canada to the seedy streets of Madripoor. Insomniac has promised a game with fast, fluid, and ferocious combat, and the footage shows Logan using his rapid healing factor and untamed berserker rage to take down anyone who gets in his way. Slated for a fall 2026 release, this feels like the ultimate Wolverine story, built from the ground up for the PS5. Let me know in the comments what you're most hyped for besides GTA 6, and what you think is a true next-gen game when it comes to graphics. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.